two CDs that took Moody Blues songs, and you brought together about 50 of the top people in bluegrass and members of the original Moody Blues, members of the Eagles, and people like that. And the reason I'm dropping the names is because there's something about you that has the ability to have associations with people that have done a lot and made a lot of success. And there's one thing that I always say, success breeds success. So the two CDs that were nominated for a Grammy Award are absolutely incredible. So I just wanted to say that. On last week's show, I got into where you were being positive with me. You shared with me a piece of music from Henry Gross. And so I got very interested in researching Henry Gross. I'm very familiar with Sha Na Na. And when I read his bio and got a good background on him, that man is an absolute incredible human being, because he talks, sings, preaches love and helping other people all the time. And he's like 4 or 5 decades now of being a person that's out there making people feel good and appreciate this life that we share. He was the youngest performer on the largest stage in the history of the world, Woodstock. I mean, you know, that's right up there with the, you know, you probably best friends with some of the members of the Beatles, you know. But the bottom line is there are people that have changed the world, and Henry Gross is an amazing person. But I'm just trying to say, you have some very, very good associations with people that have made success. So now when I come back to telling the audience this, let's listen to Randey a little bit closer now, because no matter how he says it in his humble way, he knows a whole lot about how to move forward in life and take lemons and turn them into lemonades. I mean, you know, he was a teenage dad, accepted the responsibility. I think that's the key right there that I'm going to highlight. He accepted the responsibility. So, Randey, what I'm really trying to say is this. You have a beautiful life. The Aloha spirit is just comes out of you. And I just love every time that we can be together. But what I'm asking you now is, what about all these people that they, you know, gosh, that old song, he gets up in the morning and he goes to work all day, you know, the working class man. I've got very, very close people, including some family members, that they're in a rut, so to speak. They have so much pressure and responsibility and stress, but they accept it. So they work overtime. And picture a person that's in the water, just treading water, trying not to swallow too much. And they get so tired, they get out, they take a nap, they get something to eat, they get up the next day and they're treading water again. I want to help people stop treading water and become that person that the Lord has in store for them if they finally figure out the key to how to do that. Now, so that's what I'm asking you to speak of. How do you take somebody that all the philosophy of Napoleon Hill and all the words and all of the affirmations that we talk about, to some people, they're just words. They need to get a little jump start sometimes, maybe. And that's the level that I try to do, is to connect with people so that they want to let me sort of help them see something that they didn't see before, so that I can. Here's another analogy. If you're driving a car in the snow and you're just flooring it and your rear wheels are spinning because you can't get out of that icy snow, and you have 5 people jump out on the highway and start pushing you, and they say, quit flooring it, quit flooring it. But if you take a piece of cardboard and put it under the wheel so that wheel can grab onto the edge of it and then slowly pull itself out, it will get out and then move on down the road. I want to have you talk, because I know you know the answers to this. I want you to tell people that just can't figure out how to get their car stuck out of the snow, that are treading water every day of their life. I want you to give them some nugget, some pearl that will help them start to move forward and then eventually be able to walk on their own 2 feet, then run, then fly.
Okay. That's a very interesting question there.
It's not a question. It's an assignment. Yeah. It's an assignment. Yeah, exactly. Give it to us, Randey. Teach us how to be successful.
Well, first, I think there's an exercise that I do, and I when I was in Hawaii, I'm back up a minute here. When I was in Hawaii, I wanted to help kids because I thought that I could use Napoleon Hill principles and I could help kids with addiction problems and so on. So I got involved with a family counseling agency. I didn't have a license or anything, so the lady said, I can't pay you. But I went in and I sat through some counseling sessions. These kids, some of them had to be there because of court. Some of them were there. Their parents put them there. Other ones were there just because they wanted to be there. That was very few of them. But anyway, I would sit and listen to them. And after about 4 or 5 sessions, I went to the owner and I said, I would like to speak up. And she said, okay, what do you want to do? I said, well, these kids are actually sitting here lying to themselves and they're lying to everyone. And your counselor in the room is letting them, and they're not helping anyone. They're just, they're imagining, they're glorifying their crime. They're doing all kind of things that it doesn't make sense. It's not helping them, in other words. So I said, I would like to speak up. So I did. I spoke, and I would stop them and I'd say, hold on, Kevin, let's talk about this. So I would actually just kind of take the onion and start peeling back the layers to try to get down to the core problem. And that's what I do with anybody I try to help today. First, I put myself on their level and I get down and walk in their shoes so I can be just like them, so I can try to understand them. And I usually ask about their father, because practically every kid that in these all the little classes I went to over there, or not classes but counseling sessions, every one of them had problems with their father. So if you ask them about their father, they open up, and it opens up a whole new world that you might never get into unless you actually ask that question. So I would get into their relationship with their father, and then like I said, we would try to fast forward a little bit. Then I asked her, can I work some one-on-one with a couple of these kids? And she said, yeah, but I'll have to be in the room. I said, that's okay. I don't mind that. So anyway, I would, because a couple of these kids would come up afterwards, and I was older, and they say, hey, Mr. Faulkner, blah, blah, blah. I thought, well, this kid's interested, and then somebody else would ask me a question. I said, that person's interested. The rest of them just walk out. They can't wait to get out of there. So I said, I'd like to work on one-on-one with, I had 3 different ones over the period, the whole time I was there. And so I had a call one day from, let me back up again. What I would do is I would, like I said, peel back the layers, get down to where I thought the problem was. And then I would ask the kid, what do you have a dream? If you could do anything you want to do, what would you do? And that's a good question to ask people. If you could do anything in the world that you want to do, what would it be? And you don't have to answer it right now. You can sleep on it. Let your subconscious mind think about it a few days and come back and tell me. And when they do, then that might be a good field for them to go for, because they already have a desire. So we can create a burning desire in that field because they want to do that. And therefore they have the labor of love, and they can work many more hours and not get so tired just because of the labor of love of doing something they want to do rather than something they have to do just to get a paycheck. So I'll give you this. Well, so I had a kid who he said, I don't have to work. I don't have my dad take care of me. I don't have to work, So I just over and over he would say that throughout and so finally when I put together what I did is I said, these Napoleon Hill principles work with anything. They'll work with, I believe they work with addiction. So I would put together a little paragraph, I, Kevin Johnson, am going to get a job by such and such a date, and I'm going to try to get a job in this area of work, and so on and so forth, a little affirmation. And I said, now I just want you to give me 30 days, okay? And that's what I would suggest to anyone. Just try this for 30 days. Every night, put this paragraph into your subconscious mind. That's an old Earl Nightingale program. That's the way he did it. He said, just give me 30 days, people. Put it in there every night. Get up every morning first thing and say it. Hope if you can say it out loud in front of a mirror and say it with emotion and get your subconscious mind all geared up and get your conscious mind ready to go for the day, and then say it a few times throughout the day. Eventually this stuff will start to happen. It'll take hold. And so I had this one person called me up, and he was real abrupt, and he was a military guy, and he said, Faulkner, yeah, he says, where do you and your wife like to eat over here in Honolulu? I said, well, why do you want to know that? He said, well, we want to buy you some gift card or something. I said, oh, well, what's this about? I thought he was trying to sell me something. He said, well, my son, Kevin. I said, yeah, okay, what about Kevin? He said, all right. He said, oh, yeah. He said, Kevin has never had a job in his life. He now has a full-time job. He has a part-time job, and he's trying to get another part-time job. He has gone crazy. He's taken his addiction and replaced it with work. And he said it's because of you. So anyway, so I said, okay, well, thank you, And of course, that made me feel real good. And then about 2 months later, I had another call from another lady, and she was crying. Her son's name was Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, okay, what's wrong with Jimmy? She said, because I thought something was serious, like he OD'd or something. She said, oh, no, we're so happy to have Jimmy back. He's been to rehab 6 or 7 times, and this is the first time he's ever got a grip on his life, and it has to do with you and whatever you were teaching him, and we just really want to thank you, and so on and so forth. So I am so brainwashed on the paragraph and Napoleon's principles. I have trouble getting beyond that. And it's the exact same thing when I was working on my book, Think and Grow Through Art and Music. I realized that you can use these principles for anything. It doesn't matter what. Like a person could write a book about sports, for example, and you could go interview professional athletes, put it in a book with Napoleon Hill principle, and a person that reads that book that wanted to be an athlete would have 1,000 times better chance of becoming the professional athlete. So that was my first thought, but then I thought, well, I don't really like sports all that much, but I do like music. So I'd like to help people with music and art. So that's what I did. I'm kind of jumping gears here, but I took 20 years. I started with you kind of have to know the history of Napoleon Hill. I know I'm kind of going backwards here, but with Napoleon, he went into Andrew Carnegie. Of course, you know the story. I don't know if all your listeners do. He went into Andrew Carnegie and said, I want to write a story about you. And Carnegie said, you want to write a story, you want to write a book, and you'll never have to worry about money again. If you would take 20 years of your life and interview people and write this book, and I'll give you letters of introduction. So Napoleon said yes. And of course, 30 years later, in 1937, he wrote his masterpiece, Think and Grow Rich. So in my outlook, I had to have Andrew Carnegie for me. So I started looking in the music world of someone who was respected in all types of music, which is hard to find somebody who's respected in all types of music. But I did find Chet Atkins, who, Chet was huge in the country music. He'd won a couple of Grammys with jazz. He won a Grammy in the rock music with Mark Knopfler from the Dire Straits. So he had respect in all these different fields. So I started working with Chet. He played a little club there in Nashville, and every Monday night played 2 shows. And I'd go in there, and after the show, I'd start pestering him, and that's what I call it, because I was very persistent. And it took a while to get him to understand what I was trying to do. I said, I need I need just for you to give me an introduction, because I don't know how I can't go up to someone. This was before the internet. I can't just go up to someone and start talking to them, and I don't have any way I need an introduction. So we finally got, he got on the same page, and we were getting real close, and we had some legal things drawn up, and nonetheless, I went back and I was met by his banjo player, his doctor, who is a great banjo player. His doctor said, we've advised Chet not to do anything right now until we figure out what's going on, and he wouldn't tell me what it was, but needless to say, 4 months later, Chet died from cancer. So, and then I kind of lost the wind went out of my sail for a little bit, because I just thought he was the perfect person for what I was trying to do. And so then I was walking down the street there in Nashville one day, and a songwriter buddy, and he looked up and he said, hey, right there's your other Chet Atkins. And I looked up, and it was Les Paul. They were having a tribute to Les Paul at the Ryman Auditorium there in Nashville. I said, Jesus, he's still alive? And he said, well, obviously he is. He's going to be here, and they're having a tribute. So I went back to Nashville.